For more than 4 decades, the Libyan leader Colonel Gaddaffi has survived sanctions, American air raids and assassination attempts. But it seems he'll finally be ousted at the hands of his own people. The Libyan revolution, which began in February, today rolled into the capital Tripoli, sweeping even Gaddaffi's sons into the hands of rebels as it went. But the old dictator himself is still at large and is calling on whatever supporters he has left to take to the streets for one final battle. Our reporter Tim Palmer spent 3 weeks on the ground in Libya earlier this year and he prepared this report.
The final push, like the revolution itself, began after prayers. On Saturday night, the men at a number of mosques in Tripoli celebrated iftar, breaking the Ramadan fast, then sent the women and children home, barricaded themselves in and began to broadcast calls for the final uprising to begin. What the rebels called Operation Mermaid Dawn was underway. Rebel fighters and weapons had been moved into the capital for just this moment. And within hours, the rebels say 13 suburbs had joined in battle against the Gaddafi forces.
I think Gaddafi's end is now certain. He will either flee because of the crimes he committed, be arrested or shot dead. All options are viable.
By daylight, the army was being routed in many parts of the city. In Al-Dul Street, rebel supporters broke down their own barricades to raise the old flag and sing the national anthem. Now dictating his last stand by phone, Colonel Gaddaffi used loyalist television to demand his supporters to take to the streets of the capital.
The women who train to use weapons should go out and use their weapons. You are all armed in Tripoli, so there is no excuse. Get out! How can the armed people allow a group of mercenaries, traitors and rats to open the way for colonialism?
Acting out that same backs-to-the-wall hyperbole, one of the government's news presenters vowed she'd shoot to kill any rebel who tried to take over her network.
With my weapon, I am prepared to fight today. You will not take this channel.
But within hours, state television was, for most purposes, shut down. Another sign that outside, the men Gaddafi called rats were winning. The hotel where Gaddafi loyalists had boxed up foreign reporters for months was today surrounded. There was little time left. Enough, though, for one last performance by the spokesman for the old regime.
It's 11:15 local time, so almost 11 hours of violence. It's 1,300 people killed in Tripoli alone, with 5,000 people injured. The hospitals cannot even cope with such death toll. NATO is attacking the heart of a peaceful civilian city.
By now, the Gaddafi clan itself was being hunted down. Hundreds burst into the compound of Aisha Gaddaffi, the colonel's daughter. Gaddafi's son, Mohammed, was captured at home, gunmen bursting in as he gave a phone interview on television. And then it was announced that Saif al-Islam, the man who many saw as the face of the regime's attempt to crush the February Revolution, had also been arrested by the rebels. The International Criminal Court announced his capture, but many of the rebels were already discussing whether to try him in Libya, not The Hague, so that the death penalty would be an option.
Those who were tortured in the past, had their properties confiscated, were raped and had their assets seized, will achieve victory for themselves. Forgive and let the law pronounce its judgment.
The dizzying speed of the thrust into Tripoli has come just weeks after the rebels seem to have lost all momentum. Their military leader had been assassinated. Perhaps the former Gaddafi general, Abdul Yunis, had simply made too many enemies to be able to survive the change of sides. There were reports that the revolution was fragmenting into militia groups inside Benghazi, but the NATO air raids never ceased. And in the past few weeks, weapons provided by France and Qatar suddenly changed the military balance. Overnight, many Gaddafi loyalists tried to melt back into the civilian population, leaving the rebels to sweep up control of an estimated 80% of Tripoli. What fighting continues is centred on the Bab al-Zazazia compound. It represents Fortress Gaddafi. But still, the great dictator has not been found.
The Gaddafi regime is clearly crumbling. The sooner Gaddafi realises that he cannot win the battle against his own people, the better, so that the Libyan people can be spared further bloodshed and suffering.
Libya now seems hours from a new order, joining its neighbours, Egypt and Tunisia, in casting off the past. In those two countries, the armies and the old dictators went quietly. Colonel Gaddaffi chose instead to try to crush the movement for change with brutal force. In the end, it seems to have made no difference.
Free Tripoli, not Gaddafi! Gaddafi die! Gaddafi let me die, people! You let big die! Goodbye!
A few thousand kilometres away in Damascus, Syrian leader Bashar al-Assad will be wondering who's next.
Maybe hours from a new order, but who exactly will take over? It's all very unclear. Tim Palmer there.